So you are spending hours creating Pinterest pins, and maybe every single thing you put out, you hate. It's highly possible, actually. I have a lot of people that come to me and they just don't understand what's working and what's not working with their Pinterest images. Now, I can look at your images and I can see if you're using keywords or if you're targeting a specific audience or if it's for awareness or product sales. But oftentimes, what is lacking is the design. If your images are not click-worthy, you are not going to get people on your website, which is ultimately what you want them to do. So if you don't understand what makes Pinterest tick when it comes to creating really pretty Pinterest pins, and they don't have to be really pretty, but at least a cohesive Pinterest pin design strategy, then you can probably fall into a lot of these hangups that are going to leave you feeling really frustrated and feeling like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And I don't want you to feel like that. So I'm going to walk you through 8 mistakes that you could possibly be making when it comes to your pin design. Then I'm going to walk you through what it takes to create a cohesive pin design. Then I'm going to show you some accounts from the wild. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Multiple variations of templates without editing them for a brand vibe. So there are plenty of real world examples that I can show you right on Pinterest, but I don't really feel like calling out creators for things that they didn't ask for feedback on. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the mistakes part of this with real life examples because I just don't feel like doing that. So what I did is I went into Canva and I just put together some things that I think will prove my point or bring my point out. So let's just pretend you are a creator and you are creating multiple different pieces of content on your blog or whatever platform you're using. And you are using multiple template variations like this right here, where there is no vibe. It just looks like 3 different creators, but it all goes to the same website. You really don't want to do that. Mistake number 2 is using stock photos that don't actually match your brand, your messaging, your values. Like your entire brand is just not represented in the stock photos. For example, I see a lot of content creators like myself using stock photos like this flower thing. Like this is so 2016, but I still see a ton of creators using these types of photos. And if you want to do that, that's okay, but I feel like it should match your overall brand aesthetic and it shouldn't just be haphazard. The third thing here, the third mistake is using different font groups. If you are one creator, if all of these were your pins and you have all these different fonts on all of your pins, there's no cohesion. If someone sees pin 1 and pin 2, so if they see this one and this one, unless they see your website, which there's not even a website on pin 1, and there is on pin 2, they wouldn't even know it was from the same person. That's the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish on a platform, is for people to recognize our content when they see it. When you see something from Target, you know it's Target. But when you see something from small creators who are haphazardly putting all of this together, then there is no vibe, right? There's no cohesion. Okay, let's move on to mistake number 4. Mistake number 4 is cluttering up your design with unnecessary elements. So these 3 templates from Canva are perfect. These are all in the Pinterest templates area. Why do we need this hat with a flower? Why do we need this tape and all this glitter and this torn paper? Like, this is just hideous. I think we could do without all of these elements, and we could just have maybe a couple images here and the stuff on the bottom and the text. Same with this. No one is going to stop for this. This looks like a newspaper. That was the whole point. But no one is going to stop the scroll on Pinterest if you're cluttering up your entire pin with walls of text. No one's going to do that. The third one is all of these weird arrows on this pin with this really bland stock photo. No, just no. This is just so unnecessary. Like, I understand trying to make your pin look, but at some point you go overboard with it and you're actually taking away from your main point of what you want people to take away from your image. Now, mistake number 5 is using different branding elements across all of your images that you're pinning. So let's pretend for a minute that these 3 pins are again from the same creator. You're using totally different brand elements across all 3 images, and you would not believe how many people ask me to audit their profiles or look at their content. And at the end of the day, this is what it looks like. And I have to tell them, like, you need some cohesion. You need to calm down using all these arrows and all this glitter. Let's just choose a couple of different branding elements and sprinkle them throughout to make the whole thing look like it actually belongs. All right, we're almost done with mistakes. Mistake number 6 is using text aligned in odd positions. So these 2, image 10 and image 7, are actually templates right out of the Canva template library. But you can see with a couple little tweaks how much better or how much worse it looks. So this right here, I don't like how the words 2A are on a line by themselves, and there's no, like, we can just move the text a little bit, move this box, make this smaller, and this looks so much better. And it's literally the same template, just slightly tweaked. So let's not have really weird aligned font and text. So this one I intentionally screwed up to make it look like this, because this is actually nice. This is not, but you would not believe how many times I see this here with text all over the place, and it's just aligned in weird places. Let's not do that. Number 7 is poor color choices. Don't do this. This is just horrible. Don't use bright colors. Don't use things that are going to blind people. Let's calm our colors down and try to use things that are going to stop the scroll and that are not obnoxious. If it's hard to read, like this pink and lime green, chances are people are going to skip right past it, especially if you toss in some script font with that, which I see people doing all too often. So let's use the bright colors as accents and not the main focus of the pin. And then mistake 8 is using overly saturated pin templates. If you come into Pinterest and you go to create a Pinterest pin, and every single time you default to the same pin templates right up here at the top that everyone else is using, you're going to look like everyone else, and pinners on Pinterest are not going to be able to pick you out of a lineup because you're going to look like everyone else. I actually just saw a Pinterest account, and it's a big one. It's called The Kitchen. It's a food company, or like a food blog. This one right here, and they are using templates right out of Canva that is like, I'm honestly flabbergasted that they're using these really common pin templates right out of Canva. This right here. And all they're doing is they're adding their little logo on the bottom. But like, this is a Pinterest template that I was just seeing in this lineup of pin templates. And you can tell it's right out of Canva because it's one that's right up here at the top almost all the time. So even big brands are making these mistakes. Let's not automatically default to the same pin templates that everyone else is using. If you're using this one, stop. Let's use a different one. Okay, so those are mistakes. Let's actually move on to what we can do better. Do really well. And I have a few Pinterest accounts that I want to show you. We're going to start with mine. I get a lot of compliments on my Pinterest account, my Pinterest pins, and it's like, I'm not doing anything special. There's really nothing truly special about what I'm doing. I'm just really consistent with the elements and the design that I'm using across platform. So number 1 is kind of harping back on the mistakes of using way too many template variations, is to use 2 to 3 sets of templates that have very similar elements across them. So you can see this template here is very, very simple, and I use a computer mock-up and I say watch the video, and that's very, very similar to this one right here. It's just there's an image on this one and there's a mock-up on this one. So that is also one of your ways of using or creating a cohesive branded look on Pinterest, is using the same mock-up devices, using the same formatting for mock-ups. So for example, if you have a lead magnet you're sharing like this one, all of my lead magnet pins look very similar. So I have the little images there, I have the images here, and if you see others, like the lead magnet versus the Pinterest strategy guide, you're going to see that it's the same kind of layout. there's an expectation. I'm creating trust and consistency here. So when people see this, they'll know, oh, that's Heather. Okay, that's Heather. All right. So we're also going to move into number 2, which is standardizing your colors. You really should have a cohesive Pinterest brand on your account. So when you go and you look at your brand colors, there should be cohesion throughout. This is where really hiring someone to do branding for you or purchasing a done-for-you brand kit is better than doing it haphazardly. And even Canva puts together example brand kits that look decent. And there is, consistency throughout. So really focusing on creating consistency in your colors. That way it looks like it all matches. All right. You can use gradients if you want as well. Canva recently released the ability to do gradients, and that's when I created these pins here. And you can see there's kind of a lighter color right behind the words create a lead magnet people actually want, and then it's kind of darker around the edges. That's a gradient that I actually created in Canva. I'm using my brand colors, but the gradient is taking one of my brand colors and making it darker, and then using the actual lighter green brand color in the middle. So you can use gradients to kind of differentiate what your color schemes look like, but overall you really want to keep it in the family of colors that you've chosen. All right, next, and probably the hardest for most people, is fonts. Let's stick to 1 to 2 fonts and align your fonts properly. So I talked about aligning your fonts in a funky way and creating gaps and things. Let's not do that. Instead, let's choose 1 to 2 fonts. So you'll see on most of my pins, with the exception of this one right here, there's 1, 2, 3 fonts on this one. I did not make this pin. Someone on my team made this pin. But all of my pins that I make are all very consistent. I use all Poppins font across most of my pins. And occasionally I'll throw in my Neeson's font, but it's really Poppins for the rest. So you want to choose 1 to 2 fonts and really just stick with them. You can use italics if you want to. You can underline them. You can use the bold families. You can kind of mix and match within the fonts. So this is like a Poppins semi-bold and this is regular Poppins. So you can play around with your font, but try to be cohesive with it. All right, I want you to number 4, limit the flare that you're adding so pinners aren't distracted. You can see here on mine, there's no flare. There's very few lines. There's very few triangles and glitter and hats and coffee mugs and like all this weird stuff. It's very simple. It's very to the point. And you can see that my pins are getting reach, and that's what I want them to do. People are clicking on them, people are saving them, people are viewing the videos and liking them, and there is cohesion there. So you can see as I scroll down, things do start to change a little bit. And that's because right in here, I actually introduced this new pin style with this really bold font, and these seem to be doing really well for me. Even if you scroll back to some of the other designs, I'm still using these designs, and there's a little bit of flare on this one. You can see there's a little bit of flare. There's an arrow, but that's really it. I don't want them to be too busy. In fact, I want them to be simple, so the words that I'm putting on the pin are getting across. My point is getting across. So as I scroll down, you can see occasionally I throw a pink in there. I was really testing this to see what this would look like. You can do that. Feel free to do that. And occasionally you'll see I have a YouTube thumbnail that totally looks out of place. And that's because on that platform, we're trying this out, whereas on this platform, really the consistency remains the same. Okay. The next thing that you want to look at is just making sure that your color choices aren't obnoxious. So you can see here there's the occasional pin that I created for the Shopify store, but overall, like, that's an exception to the rule. Don't go obnoxious with your colors. It's very, very within the scheme. These are guest post pins, by the way. I would never have a color scheme like that. All right, and then really what I want you to do outside of that is stick to a theme with your stock photos. So I have a few tips for you when it comes to doing this. Oh, and you want your stuff to look cohesive across platforms. So you can see here the kind of curvature that I'm using. I'm using that same kind of curvature in my Pinterest pins. And I'm using these like read now or like read the blog post. Those calls to actions are kind of melted throughout the pins. So you can see from the blog post to the Pinterest images, it's the same, it looks the same. And that's really what you're going for. Okay, a couple tips for you when you are looking for stock photos on Canva. If you go to photos and you click the three dots on a photo right here, and you click the name of who submitted that photo to Canva and open that up, you're going to see all the photos that were created by that person. So when I show you this set of Pinterest images, so when we were looking at this before, it was this one, right? I took the same templates. Let me just drag this up so you can actually see it next to each other. I took the same set of templates and I made them cohesive. You want to edit the text. You don't ever want to use text on Pinterest that says new post because Pinners don't care. Pinterest is also categorizing this text that you put on the pin and indexing that. So if this is plant care, then let's change those words. Let's make sure that the Pinterest images throughout, and this image looks grainy because the screenshot is actually small, but the images throughout are also in the same family. Okay, I wouldn't go to Canva and look for plant photos that are in completely different families. You're not doing that probably on any other channel, so don't do that on Pinterest either. But if you were to click the name of the person, you can see the artist or the brand who submitted the photos. And you can see here, there's a ton of photos in that same family that I can pull out and I can use. A ton of them. And that's great. That gives me some cohesion. Now, the next thing that I want to say is to set up your brand kit. Make sure your brand kit is set up. Add your templates to your brand kit so you always have access to them. Add your logos. Add your color scheme and your font so then it's really easy when you go to apply a template to actually just apply the template, plug and play whatever images that you need to do here, change the font if you want to slightly, and then change the text and you're ready to go. So that way, when you actually create your Pinterest pins, it doesn't take you hours, and that's the whole goal. The goal of this is to make it easier for you to create pins. Show you, that way you can get some inspiration and you can see what I'm talking about. So really well done here with this Squarespace Magdalene Design Co. She has a set of templates that she's moving throughout. She's using the same tablet kind of mock-up style throughout, the same page mock-up style, and she's differentiating between pins with no images and pins with images and text on them. So this one does a really, really good job of that. I really like her stuff. I found all of these people randomly just by searching. This one is a food creator. They also have kind of cohesion with the way that they do all of their pins. You can see they have a few different templates that they kind of move through. Some of them are smaller, some of them are longer. A lot of them have more than one image. We do have some infographics here that we can utilize. This one kind of is an outlier in that it has a background color and there's like, this stock photo was an odd choice. But still, like, it fits within the family. It's just the colors are an odd choice. The next one is this e-commerce company. They actually sell grow lights and they also give you plant care and indoor gardening tips. And they have a lot of pins that are kind of this mock-up style theme where you have the same yellow and green font family. You have the same font throughout, and then you have the occasional image like this that kind of stands out from the rest. This one took me by surprise. Everyone has little unicorns that kind of don't fit. Even I do. And all the examples that I have for you today are also like that. But if I were to see this person's pins, I would know that it's Bright Labs. You know, if I was following them, interested in their content, I would know if they put out a pin that it was theirs. Now, the fourth and final example is a kind of well-known, well-established parenting style, lifestyle blogger. This woman has been on this platform probably since 2010. She has over like 750,000 followers on this platform. So she's doing a really good job. But her content has always been consistent. Even though she uses kind of odd stock photos, that kind of goes with her theme. So she's got this weird baby and like food. And then she has stuff that's like fitness. And then she has things that are like, you know, parenting tips. All of it goes within her lifestyle brand, but where she has cohesion is with her pin design style. Her overall pin design style, you will always know that it's her if you follow her and you start to pay attention to her content because of this design here. This same like big words and little words smashed together and the black and white font. She's always had that design style. And I haven't known her to really ever deviate from this in the 8+ years I've been on this platform. The only thing that changes for this person are the stock photos, but you kind of know and expect that from her. So the goal of this is to create a really seamless pin design that when you put out Pinterest pins, your audience knows it's you. That way we can actually stop spending hours creating Pinterest pins that might fall flat, and we can spend more time on what actually matters, which is the content or the products that you're creating that you are ultimately driving traffic to. So if you're looking for more Pinterest marketing strategies, head right this way.